Slacktail Squad, assemble.
Is it good now?
There we go. There's your professional podcast where I will have to go back in and edit because that's how things go. That's how things roll. Did you find it, Ron? Did you find what you were looking for?
Did you find that?
He knows
booty
how
hole?
technology works.
Oh, look at him. He's so tech savvy. So tech savvy.
Okay, now read it out loud, Johns. Use your best announcer voice.
No, he's trying to read out loud.
Just read it. Just read it.
No, Swan, clearly you don't understand the concept. You see how there's no sound wave coming from Ron's? He's so tech savvy that he got disconnected and yet somehow still can't manage to connect properly and come across. That's amazing.
I just thought he looked confused like normal.
Yeah, he does usually look confused. So anyway, as I was saying, Tremonti, you're good to go, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I got sound waves on my end.
Okay.
We still can't hear you, Ron's.
Yeah, he's special. I guess he thinks it. He's like, I'm just gonna keep coming out and going back in, and hope that somehow the tech gods will grant me the ability to utilize my voice.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. Far be it from him to actually understand how the stuff works. Anyway, the point is, here's my point.
Testing.
What's your point?
All right, I'm back. Thank you.
Oh God, it was.
You're welcome.
We were worried. We were worried. What was the point again? You said the point is.
No, never mind. Let's have Ron's read his thing. Go ahead, Ron's. Read your post.
Well, give me a second.
He probably had plenty of time to practice.
He had that plenty of time, but he still hasn't got it pulled up, has he?
His computer crashed. It's not his equipment.
Well, first of all, I had to relog in and reset the mic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, so you will tell me what's wrong with this, of course, in Beaveman style.
We're still waiting.
All right. So here it is, the latest post from November 8th. The latest podcast has been released into the wild. In this episode, the Beaveman narrates the Ron's Halloween story, and he does a damn fine job too. Also, the Swan uses the word.
Hold on. Where's your punctuation? So then, is there a period there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, comma, the Swan uses the word psychoanalyze too. Period. Please give a listen, comma, like, and subscribe to the Slaptail Nation podcast and keep the Beaveman happy.
I don't think that's the sentence. Read the second sentence again.
Which one?
He's reading it how he wants it to sound.
No, I'm reading it verbatim.
No, that's not how it was written. Go ahead.
He had to hurry up and quickly edit it real quick.
Okay, so the latest podcast has been released into the wild, period. In this episode, comma, the Beaveman narrates the Ron's, and there's a little apostrophe there.
That's just saying Ron's as possession.
And he does a damn fine job too, period. Also, comma, the Swan uses the word, in quotations, psychoanalyze too, T-O-O, period.
Why do we need all those twos? I don't really understand those. Why do you... You could have just left those off, maybe.
See, Ron, you are not reading it verbatim.
Well, yeah, I am.
You are changing it so that it makes sense. I will read it. I pulled it up, so now I'm going to read it. Because you're fucking lying.
No, you read...
His brain just reads it.
He's leaving out a word.
Uh-huh.
All right, let me read it again, see if I leave out the word. The latest podcast has been released...
Just read from also. Read from also.
Also, the Swan uses the word psychoanalyze too.
No,
you're reading it wrong again. You're reading it wrong again.
Your brain is just omitting it.
Uses.
No. Also, the Swan uses the word the psychoanalyze too.
You see that, Ron? You see how you have that extra.
No, you know what? You're correct. I put too many does in it. No. You're right. It's sort of like those words, those little eye tests where they say, "Do you see the mistake?" And most people don't catch
the. His brain just admits it.
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. I'll take full responsibility for that.
Yeah. How many times did you read that just now and insist that we were wrong?
About 4.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So shut the fuck up. You're right. You're right.
He's like, I'm just gonna shut up now.
I'm just going to shut my mouth.
Right? So I put one word in there.
Black belt.
Whoa, Tremonti, don't step on the B-Man's toes there. That's his bit, not yours. Come up with your own.
I was just trying to get him to go into it.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So here's what I'm a little bit annoyed at. If you have an opinion on something, you can change your opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ron's right. Is that right? Right, Ron's right.
Well, yeah, if you have an opinion, yeah, it's your. Unless it's the B-Man telling you it's your opinion, then you can't change it.
Especially if it's been several years. Let's say my opinion on something that I hold now is different than it was 10 years ago.
Like you can have growth and change, or just not even grow, but just change what you believed in before.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So here's my problem. I listen to different podcasts. I listen to different comedians, and through the years of listening to them, or months or whatever, they might have a certain stance and say, you know what, comedy, this is the way comedy is. This is how comedy should be. This is the way I'm going to do comedy. And that's probably never going to change. Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. You stick to your guns. As an example, I am a fan of toilet humor. I am a fan of people swearing to express themselves and to say all kinds of goofy shit. I like sketch comedy. I like prop comedy. I like comedy. In general, I like comedy. So if I like that comedy and that's who I am and that's how I want to be, if that's how I am right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how I'm going to be in 10 years. Chances are I probably will. It's fine. I'm sure I probably will be.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I don't want is comedians dictating the type of comedy that they think that we should be putting out into the world based on their own personal opinion of what their comedy is.
Like an example would be what?
Okay. So when was Seinfeld on? In the 80s, 90s?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. 90s. Yeah.
80s, 90s, whatever. So when Seinfeld was on, and I've said this before, I didn't ever think Seinfeld himself was very funny. I never thought he was funny. I thought the other characters were more amusing than he was. And I thought the writing was good. Now, obviously, Jerry Seinfeld wrote a bunch on that because that was his show. And he wrote with the other guy who's on Curb Your Enthusiasm. His name escapes me right now. I can't remember his name. Ron's probably knows. So I never thought he was particularly funny. His stand-up is cute, whatever. But he doesn't swear, for one thing. Okay, that's your choice. He really doesn't talk about sex that I know of or anything like that. He talks about stuff like, here's a stop sign. Oh, wow. Ever notice how stop signs have 8 sides? What's up with that? Yeah, okay. So you're talking about stuff that we see on a day-to-day life. Okay, so that's your opinion. Great. Here's what I don't understand is why do other comedians kowtow to what Jerry Seinfeld says what comedy is, even if their comedy isn't the same? Why is Jerry Seinfeld the know-all, be-all, end-all of what comedy should be? How's that?
I didn't know that he was, but I don't think he's funny either. It's an interesting take
because when you look back at his career when he got fired from the Benson show, I think he was on Benson.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on just 1 second. If you're going to make a point, you shouldn't say, you're like, yeah, I think, well, maybe he wasn't. I don't, you know what? It might not even been the same guy. Please go.
No, let me finish here. He got fired from the show because he walked in one day and they didn't have him, whatever. And he says, when I come back, I'm going to be bigger than everything. Right? I'm paraphrasing here. And he reinvented himself and became this much larger than life character.
I'm sorry, Ron. What does that have to do with what I just said?
I'm getting there if you'd shut up and listen, right?
You should you should actually get to some sort of a point first and then tell like a backstory or something. Because right now I'm like, what does that have to do with what I just said?
Because he started this observational humor without swearing. But the first one to do it was Jeff Foxworthy. But Jeff Foxworthy wasn't big enough. Jerry Seinfeld basically reinvented himself, got himself a TV show, wrote and did that. So if you wanted to be any big, it's basically he became like a godfather of comedy, right? So like when we were growing up, who's the godfather of comedy? Rodney Dangerfield, right? At least in my opinion. And if you wanted to be good, you had to go get his blessing to be good, right?
That's about 5 rights, by the way. I was just counting.
Okay, fair enough. However, when you wanted the
is anybody getting to the point? What is it? Can somebody translate for me what his point is? Because I don't know.
My point is, they all want basically his approval.
Okay, but you're not. Okay,
yeah, but the whole point was why? Why does it have to be like that? Not they want it. We know that already. That's what he just said. But why? How did it get that way? Isn't that what you were asking?
No, you didn't explain it.
You didn't. You just said the same thing. You took 10 minutes to say the same thing.
Well, you kept on interrupting.
So because you all interrupted him, he couldn't explain his point.
Oh, is that it?
Oh, there you go.
One point.
Ron.
Well given.
12 minutes. We'll be there.
Okay. All right. So
Tremonde's got your back, Ron.
All right. So anybody
the
remember?
way you like it.
Okay, so Eddie Murphy does this stand-up, and I can't remember which show it is that he does, where he's talking about where was approached by, or whatever, Bill Cosby, and said, you need to tone it down because you're filthy mouth and all this other stuff. And then in that same time, he said, yeah, and then Richard Pryor told me, to tell him to shut the fuck up, or basically, that's part of that's the whole gist.
Part of his bit.
That's gist of the bit is basically that Bill Cosby didn't approve of Eddie Murphy's act, but Richard Pryor did. Okay.
So where's Bill Cosby now, folks?
Well, thank you for taking away my point, Swan, which is what the point that I was just going to make is that if people were seeing
it's for you, it's part of the team.
Yeah, there's all this backstory to it. Why don't you just get to the point? Jeez. Yada, yada, yada. Seinfeld reference.
Actually, mine
to the point.
Mine was much faster than yours. My point being is that, okay, so if people were trying to kowtow to Bill Cosby and trying to follow what he said, and there was people who were not, obviously, because they're like, fuck him, who gives a shit? Look how far he fell. He was not this pristine person. Not saying that Jerry Seinfeld isn't. I'm just saying that stop trying to measure up to somebody if that's not your style of comedy or if that's not your personal style. I would much rather measure up to Richard Pryor than to Jerry Seinfeld.
Definitely.
And so when you're sitting there and you're making a stand, like, okay, so Mark Maron did this interview with Jerry Seinfeld, and there was actually quite a bit of arguing between them. If you listen, it's a pretty good interview, and he doesn't really back down, but he kind of does a little bit because he swears, Mark Maron does, and he says things that, and Jerry Seinfeld basically just tells him, it's not needed. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary in comedy. You can have comedy without it. And so so basically he's saying that if you depend on that stuff, or if you have that stuff in your act, that you're not on the same level as Jerry Seinfeld. You'll never be as good of a comedian as him because you don't do this. And instead of Mark kind of stood his ground, but he also kind of bowed down because it's Jerry Seinfeld. And in my opinion, he just should have been like, you know what? That's your opinion, motherfucker.
Yeah. So he's like Jerry Seinfeld saying, like, I went to Harvard of comedy and you went to community college. Like, he's belittling him for his use of swear words. Like, it's below you or it's below him.
Any of that. I mean, he doesn't talk about sex. He doesn't talk about any of that stuff. He's, he talks about things like, you know how when you're at the grocery store and you've got that little bar, you've got to have that in between your groceries because God forbid your groceries are next to each other. Oh, what he makes it, it's like Ron said, it's observational comedy. Okay, so that's your opinion. All right, so I was kind of proud of Mark Maron because he kind of stood his ground. And then I was listening to him today, and he was talking about how comedians are bitching that they're being censored and because of cancel culture, and there's things that they're not allowed to say. And then he went on and talked about how he used to say some things and how he's grown, and he doesn't say those things anymore. Fine, Mark, that's your opinion. I'm listening to you because I enjoy your podcast, but you're also kind of changing your stance on things. And one of the words he talked about was retarded. You shouldn't say the word retarded. And this is why. I used to say the word retarded in my act occasionally back, decades ago or whatever. And I don't say them anymore because once I got this letter from a mom who said that hurts her personally when I say those things. And we shouldn't be doing comedy that hurts a demographic or a type of community. And I'm paraphrasing, of course. And so I'm sitting there going, okay, I can understand that you have evolved and this is your evolution of comedy and this is how you want to be. But now you're also playing the Jerry Seinfeld card and you're trying to dictate to other comedians how they should be. And you're having a huge conversation about it. And I don't think that's appropriate because comedy is individualized. If you want to say fuck in your comedy routine and you want to talk about getting a blowjob or a finger up your ass, by all means, go ahead. You're going to get your own niche of people who follow you, and you do no wrong by those people unless you cross a line, where you start talking about things like how you like to fillet kittens and juice them for your morning drink. I don't recommend anybody does that. But what I'm saying is, okay, you were already kind of bitching about how you had that interview with Seinfeld a little bit, and what's up with that guy is basically what he said that later on, and you're doing the same thing. You're kind of saying, oh, you don't need to do this. I mean, when I say somebody's retarded, at this point in time,
you mean it like 80s, like when you say that's gay.
Yeah, the 80s, right? Exactly. And I say that, but I shouldn't have to say that. And the fact that somebody gets offended if you say retarded, and in 50 years from now, when I'm quote running for office, which I won't be, I will still say, I'm like, if you were offended by that word, how long ago were we even using that as a medical diagnosis? That hasn't been in the common time. It hasn't been in common time anyway. We haven't used that as a quote diagnosis forever.
There's a certain comedian I like to listen to called Chris. His name is Christopher Titus, right? And and there you go. I said the word right again. He goes into a certain bit about using the word retarded, and he breaks it down what he means by it. And the entire audience just gets on board and laughs about it. And Ralphie May is another one of my favorite comedians, right? And there I go. I said it again.
Yeah, because we don't know. From now on, we're just going to say, yes, we believe that to be true.
Very good. And Ralphie May goes into this entire cultural breakdown and everything of how he grew up poor and how he grew up in a different ethnicity background. And it's hilarious when he breaks it down. There's also another comedian that's like that too. And he goes into, and I can't think of his name, but he married an African-American woman. He's a white guy. And he goes into certain words and how he's not allowed to say them, but his family can. And without being totally saying anything off-brand, he touches on racial humor without being racist. And I thought, this is great. Right? He's getting his point across.
That to be true.
We believe that's true.
What's that? We believe that's true.
That's true.
Yeah. And he's great about it. I think when these comedians kind of lose touch and they try to become politically correct, they lose all their humor, right? And
we believe that to be true.
We believe that's true. Thank you.
Ron's is gonna have his own
it's like church.
Yeah. Every
yeah. Thank you.
Amen.
I appreciate that.
So Ron, I believe you're referring to Gary Owen.
Is it Gary Owen I'm thinking of?
Yep. And it's a very funny bit. I've listened to it.
Yeah.
The delivery was probably better than what Ron's gave, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And he goes into this entire dynamic of how he has a black family and how he's not allowed to say certain words, but everybody else in his family can use the certain words. And I thought that he gets his point across without ever swearing. Another great comedian is Bill Engvall.
I don't think we have to sit here and just go over your list of different comedians.
We did with yours and Jeff Foxworthy.
No, we didn't.
It was implied. So, and another one of my all-time favorite comedians.
Stop, Ron. Come on, stop.
Okay, are you sure?
You're not even listening. You're not even talking about what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, you don't know. I do. What are you censoring yourself because?
Stop talking. All right, stop talking.
Are you censoring yourself because you have to, or to meet, because we're cancel culture. And I totally don't agree with that. You should have to censor yourself because some assholes out there doing it.
Well, here's what I agree with. I agree that it's not necessary to utilize your power of comedy or to be as a comedian to segregate people that are different from you in order to make fun of them. I think it's more important to make fun of situations and people overall in general, like myself. So if I was going to make, let's say I'm going to make fun of an ethnic group. I mean, other than the Amish, because I like to make fun of them. And it's not an ethnic group, I guess.
I was going to say.
But it is a mindset that you put yourself in. So I'm like, if I'm going to make fun of people, I'm going to make fun of white people and I'm going to make fun of Hispanics because that's what I am. I'm half and half. So does it feel like I should be able to make fun of other ethnicities? I guess we've actually trained ourselves in culture that it's not okay. So we can only make fun of ourselves, which is stupid. I mean, I think if you do stuff without malice, then it's fun. And that's what I don't understand is why does everybody have to think that this sort of thing is malicious? If I'm going to call the Rons retarded, it's because he's freaking retarded, not because he has, he's mentally challenged. I mean, he probably is, but it's okay.
He doesn't get offended about it.
No, but when I'm listening to this other, and I'll just say it's this other podcast, and this is another thing that kind of bugs me. Like, why does everybody have to have a podcast? I mean, I don't care if you do, but the people that are famous that are having podcasts, they really have nothing to fucking say. Most of them, they're just doing it because their agent said, "Hey, you know what? You should have a podcast." And
this is another platform to put yourself out there on.
Yeah, and what are these famous people doing? They're just asking all their famous friends to be on their podcasts. Like, okay, not interesting. And then, we have to listen to that. But this particular podcast, it's not great. It's okay. I just listen to it because I like to have background noise. It's called Smartless. And it's got Will Arnett and Jason Bateman and Sean Hayes, I think. And they were interviewing Jerry Seinfeld. And the whole time they're just not slobbing on Jerry Seinfeld's knob. And I'm like, and they just think that he's the ultimate comedian. I'm like, okay, but I've heard you guys do other bits that maybe Seinfeld wouldn't approve of, but yet you think that he's the end all be all. And I got to thinking about it quite a bit. I'm like, these people, all they're doing is parading their friends in front of everybody for a podcast because they're famous and they can, so, you want to be on my podcast? Okay, great. We got 3 podcasts out of it. We got 3 guests, I'll just keep parading my friends while the rest of us are actually doing the real fucking work out here. And that's fine. But I actually thought to myself, you know what? If I was famous, would I want Jerry Seinfeld on my podcast? And the answer is no.
I'm going to go with fuck no. Because I don't think he's funny. I don't think he's funny at all. And I think he probably is a douche if you actually see him in real life. Do you think he would be cool to walk up to somebody on the side street? Or do you think he'd be like, I'm too good for you. I'm not going to even take my picture with you?
Well, first of all, I don't think that they need to. For one thing, I don't think that we need to slob on the knob of celebrities in the first place. I don't think you need to go up to celebrities and try to get your pictures taken with them. I don't think you need to do any of that because what is so important about that? If you remember, go ahead, Tremont. You had something to say?
I can't say what to slob a knob of a celebrity? Like, why would you not want to do that?
Because I don't.
Yeah, I'm totally slobbing on Thor, buff Thor. Long-haired Thor.
And by the way, it's just it's an expression, Tremonde. But no, Jesus, what the fuck was I saying? Oh, I don't think
they're
that
just
it's
regular
necessary.
people, and they should be allowed to be in public and get a coffee if they want to.
Absolutely,
they should actually. I mean, I think it's shitty that you can't go, but yet that's what they want. Most of them,
no, I don't
they
think so.
want that. Yes, they do.
I don't think so because there's so many celebrities out there. That it's not. I don't think they want that.
Do I think all of them want that? No. Are there some? Absolutely. Because some people like they want to be in that spotlight, and everything that they do is in the spotlight. Being the reason why some celebrities, you don't need a podcast because we see your life every single day on all these other platforms. So why do we need another platform to now hear from you when we can just easily Google you and see something that was said or done or interviewed by someone yesterday. So I think some of them do enjoy.
Yeah, because if they really didn't want to be there, they could be like our friend Keanu and just be like blended in and not out in the public and not having attention about every time he goes to pump gas or do anything.
Yeah,
because I feel like there are so many celebrities that like we don't hear anything about them. We don't hear gossip. We don't see like random photos of them, like because like they just live this life where they're not putting themselves out there, and I think they have received like that level of respect.
Yeah, I think it's just important that you shouldn't make a big deal about it at any point in time, because there's so many of them. Like if you live in, if you live in New York City, or if you live in, Hollywood, Los Angeles area, you're probably going to see a ton of them. So what difference is it? And you might even not notice who they are. You might not recognize them. Why treat them any differently than you treat anybody else? I think that's ridiculous. I think it's stupid. I mean, however, and to say that, that people should get mad if they don't want to sign an autograph. I'm like, nah, fuck that. Who cares? Why are you bothering them? Who gives a fuck?
However, with that said, though, and going back to what you guys have mentioned, there are some who thrive on that.
Yeah, she said that.
So if you, that's why I said, I mentioned that. I'm keep up with me.
No, I think you have to keep up with us.
Okay. So,
I mean,
who would you get? Whose autograph, or who would you like to be with?
No, you're.
I mean, obviously, you have
nobody.
Actually, believe it or not, Beaveman, you have fans, right? They're and they like to approach you, probably for an autograph.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't know. So I feel like a little bit of both. Like I do understand both sides. That side where when asked of something, there is this negative response that they give as celebrities. I do understand that like sometimes they just want to be
left alone and get their groceries. Yeah.
At the same time, you have this young person who looks up to this person because they have declared themselves as this role model. They want people to aspire to be like them, to see what they too can be. And then you have this young person who is seeing this for the very first time. They're in awe of that experience.
Yeah. Well, I
mean, I feel like it might be different if it was like like you said, a young person, a child, like, ooh, it's Justin Bieber or whatever. Like that might be cool if you were like 8-year-old little girl.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a little kid,
adult.
Yeah, if you're a little kid and you see Christian Bale and he's Batman and you know him as Batman, that's a big deal.
And that's a different story. Like, hopefully that celebrity would be like, yep, I'm Batman. Cool. Have a nice day, kid. But they don't have to, but they shouldn't be a dick about it to the poor little kid.
Yeah.
But now if you're like grown up 35-year-old adult and you're doing that, then he'd be like, that's different.
Yeah. But then I also blame the internet and social media and this need for likes and friends and approval, because sometimes I believe that there are people who want to take these selfies with these celebrities and just want to be able to post about it as opposed to just enjoying the experience. They get so captured in being able to capture this moment on their cell phone that won't leave their cell phone. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Like you're trying to make yourself something that you're not. Out of for what purpose? I actually did a wisdom talk about this. Anyway, no, I think it's a little bit silly. Anyway, the example I was going to use, and I don't know if it's true anymore, because if I still saw him today, I still wouldn't ask for an autograph, but I would like to meet him. Many years ago, I read a book and it had an interview in it from Mr. T, and Mr. T said that he didn't give autographs. And the reason why he didn't give autographs because he was super humble and said, it shouldn't make you feel like you're something that you're not, or that you're so great because you get my autograph, because I'm just a person.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so great that having my autograph is going to make you great either. I'm just a person.
That's powerful.
So that's kind of true. My uncle used to travel a lot in the 90s for his job. And he sat next to and talked to like a regular person, Hulk Hogan, in Coach.
Yeah,
like, why do you fly coach? He's like, because I'm just a regular person. I'm not going to waste money to fly first class. And he was sitting next to my uncle just chatting and, having a normal conversation. And it was not a big deal. So.
You're going to take me to the same place anyway. I'm not going to get there any
Yeah.
faster in first class.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think that I guess if they said, hey, do you want a picture together? I'd be like, I'm sure, I guess. But I wouldn't go out of my way to be bothering people about shit. I think it'd be far more interesting. It's far more interesting to not have to, exactly like you said, just to have a normal freaking conversation. I mean, our one friend, he flies all the freaking time. And he had that picture that one time where he was sitting next to freaking Louis Anderson. And he was like in coach too, just chilling out.
I think a lot of people put these celebrities on pedestals so they make them unapproachable. So when they find out they are approachable, they're just a regular person. It's kind of like a fanboy thing. I know when I met a favorite celebrity of mine, I was like, wow, I get to meet you. And I got a couple of autographs from him, and I got a picture. I was just over the moon, right? There, I said it.
And who was it? We believe that to be true, by the way.
Weird Al.
Yeah, you're totally a fan. I can understand.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that happening. I mean, I could.
And he was humble. He was really cool about it.
I would probably have a hard time with. There's probably only maybe like one or two people that I probably would kind of geek out if I saw them.
And I remember seeing Jeff Daniels at a bookstore.
I wouldn't geek out.
I didn't know. I like his acting.
I do too, but I wouldn't geek out. I'd be like, oh, that's Jeff Daniels.
I saw him from a distance, and I'm like, do I want his autograph, or do I want to be respectful and give him his space? And I thought, just give him his space. He's just a regular guy. He was there on a book signing tour anyway.
Yeah, so he was already going to sign shit. He already had to sign shit.
I didn't want to go up there and like, oh, I loved you in Dumb and Dumber and all that. It wasn't about that movie. It was about what he was doing in the area.
About a book he was signing?
Yeah.
Because you said it was a book signing. So that might have been what it was about.
I think it was a book signing, yeah. I was at a bookstore. So yeah.
Oh, that would be obvious. God. That would be the obvious things. Poor Ron's.
Yeah,
don't make fun of him too bad.
My point is, why is there people out there trying to dictate what type of comedy that you should have? Just do your own fucking thing. If you don't like what other people are fucking doing, just do it. Why are you the end all be all? And this is what bothers me, because I listen to that. I'm like, Seinfeld, you're not that funny. I don't care. Don't really care. Now, if somebody was going to pull me aside, let's say that I had the honor of doing stand-up, which I can't because I would love to.
You're not funny?
Because I'm not funny. That's not my thing.
And I think that would be the funniest thing, that you are not funny.
No, that wouldn't be funny.
Anyway.
Actually, it is.
Anyway. No.
But if I wanted somebody's advice, if somebody was going to pull me aside and give me some advice, I would want it to be somebody that I find fucking hilarious. Like, could you imagine? I mean, for me personally, if I had the choice, if somebody said, okay, believe it or not, Beaveman, we can book, there's two people who want to do your podcast, but you can only pick one of them. And they said it could either be Jerry Seinfeld or Dave Chappelle. Which one do you want? I'd be like,
oh, we already know the answer. So
fucking Dave Chappelle, of course. That's that's who. I mean, like, and the mere fact that, here's another thing that, this is my rant about Jerry Seinfeld. He's never going to hear it. Whatever. He's not going to come after the Beaveman. Anyway, he said, the one guy asked him a question. He basically said, they were talking about comedy and what people say, and he said something about how, well, don't you think that, comedians can influence what's going on in the world based off of their comedy? And he said, no. He's like, I don't touch anything political. I only touch like the funny observations or whatever. He's like, because nobody gives a shit about what comedians have to say. If you talk about, and he kind of referenced The Daily Show, with Jon Stewart. He's like, I don't think I like Jon Stewart. He's funny, but I never learned anything by watching him on The Daily Show. And the guy, Sean Hayes, he kept saying, I don't think I agree with that. Well, he didn't agree with Jerry Seinfeld's opinion, and I agree with him. I don't agree with Jerry. And the other two on the show basically just shot him down and said, yeah, Jerry's right. Just be quiet, Sean, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they were kidding around, but really they were just saying your opinion doesn't matter. Jerry Seinfeld's does. And I totally agree with what he said, because most people, a lot of people don't give a shit about politics, but they do like comedy. And that's how a lot of people even learn about what's going on in the world, is by watching something like The Daily Show. If you watch Trevor Noah, I learn more about what's going on in the world by watching Trevor Noah.
Same.
I would rather watch him than I would rather watch them than CNN or Headline News or anything. And
Same.
I love the segment on Saturday Night Live, Weekend Update. That's what I live for. I because you learn a lot, and the political satire is just through the roof. And Trevor Noah, The Daily Show, yeah. And then before them, there was Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor, and there's a scene in the movie where he's trying to get rid of his money, and he runs for political office. He says, "Vote for no one, vote for none of the above." And going back to what you were saying about, do comedians influence politics? I think they do. I really do. So they have this way of saying, all right, you're going to go this way. I mean, look how many people were for the last presidency, and look how many came out against Trump. And they go, if Trump stays in power, we have more comedy. However, that's not good for the American people. If he leaves office, we have less comedy. So it was kind of a bitter loss for comedians. Do comedians influence? Oh, yeah. Look at Lenny Bruce. He changed the dynamics.
This is where Ron throws out random names again.
No. Look what Lenny Bruce did.
I think, Ron's, what to summarize your point is, you are saying that comedians can be influential in what is going on in the world today. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Did you want to throw out some more comedian names and go back like 35, 40 years to Brewster's Millions or another movie?
Yeah. Look what Lenny Bruce did for comedy. He brought it all in. Right? He changed the dynamics.
We believe that to be true.
Right? Yeah. Well,
we believe that to be true.
We believe that to be true.
I know you said it the first time.
Well, you said it twice, so we were just trying to.
I understand.
I mean, it's just like at church every time.
Yeah.
Every time you say hallelujah.
So
amen.
Yeah,
amen.
My point is, it's a little annoying that people can't have a different idea in front of other people. They just immediately get shot down. I thought that was totally inappropriate. And sometimes I listen to that show and it's just because I want to hear background noise. I think that I listen to it because I like Will Arnett's voice. I think that's why I listen to it. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to it anymore because they literally shot down their own co-host. Basically told him to shut up. You have a different opinion than Jerry Seinfeld. And they tried to make it funny.
Isn't that what we kind of do to Ron?
Except we are doing it for comedic purposes, and they were literally telling him you can't have a dissenting opinion to Jerry Seinfeld because it's Jerry Seinfeld. I don't agree
with that. Yeah, well, I'm just gonna go with fuck Jerry Seinfeld.
You know, I and of course with everything, it all depends on who the audience is. Because there are some audiences that I'm sure Jerry Seinfeld would never step in front of to attempt to make laugh because he knows that there's not going to be anything that he can say out of his mouth that is going to entertain those people.
But does he care? Nope. He just doesn't pick that. He just doesn't check that demographic. He's like, not going to go to that city. That's not my demographic because I don't care.
It's like,
but that's
like, then fine. Like,
so
I won't go over there either. Because at that point,
crazy.
At that point, you're wasting your money and all that. If I had the option of having him on a podcast, I would, and it wouldn't be so much of the fact of like me enjoying his comedy. It would just be the fact of like I do like appreciate his work ethic and what he has put into his field of work, and it would be just about that. It wouldn't be necessarily to speak about anything about how entertaining I have personally found him to be. But as
so
it
you're
was
going
saying,
to have him on not to fluff his ego. That
Oh,
would
no,
be
absolutely
great.
not. Absolutely not.
I've never seen Tremonti as a fluffer.
Anyway, so
Why you gotta go
here's
there?
my question. So here's my question to you then, Tremonti.
Yes.
Knowing my opinion and knowing who I am and being on the podcast, being on the Slaptail Squad, and if they came to you and said, now we're successful and we can have guests on there, and they said, we've booked Jerry Seinfeld for this podcast. How do you think I would be on that podcast? Do you think that I would be uncomfortable? Do you think that I would look uncomfortable the whole time? And do you think that I would blow up and actually just be a huge dick on the podcast?
I believe that you would blow up and be a huge dick on the podcast.
I think I would too. And that's why it would be so hard for me to do something like that, because I can't hold my own ideals in and say, I couldn't turn around and say to Jerry Seinfeld, you know what? I've always enjoyed your comedy, Mr. Seinfeld, because it wouldn't be true. I'd be like, he's not that funny.
No.
So, but maybe that would be
hilarious.
hilarious. That would be a great podcast because Tremonti would be, again, the voice of reason and that. And then you could be your dicky self. And maybe Jerry Seinfeld would accidentally explode and say a swear word.
But see, no, if you listen to, okay, so here's what you have to do. You have to actually listen to some interviews with Jerry Seinfeld on different things, because he gets
mad.
He gets mad if you disagree with him.
That's what I'm saying. So
his whole tone, entire tone, his voice, his tone changes. And you're like, see, there he is. He does. Yep. He gets extremely condescending. So I'm like, yeah, see, I couldn't deal with that. I'm like, okay, so you have a different opinion than me. Opinions are like assholes. And you know what would come out of me, honestly, if I had to deal with that? I would say, okay, you might be the most successful person in the world, but you're still not as smart as me. So you can have all the money in the world. I take my brain, and I'm better looking than you. So even if we had to swap places, I'd spend all my money on plastic surgery to go back to looking like I was before, and to fix my eyelid. Other than that, though, I couldn't hold it.
But it would be kind of great because maybe he would break his character.
Of course he would. He does it already. I've already told you. He does it.
That would be awesome, because then you could throw it in his face and be like, you're not being very Jerry Seinfeld-like.
So Beaveman, let me ask you this. Have you seen him sit in front of someone where they were really I want to say polar opposite, but not necessarily even trying to like get him to that point of breaking character, but who was not in agreement to what he does or how he does things?
There was Mark Maron on his podcast with Jerry Seinfeld. I'd say listen to it, because you can tell that there's moments in there where there's tension between him and Mark Maron, and where to the point where, you know, after the interview and stuff, yeah, you can kind of tell by the comments that he says beforehand and after, because he likes to talk before his podcast. He does the actual recording of the podcast and he talks afterwards. So you can tell that there was tension, and you can tell that he was kind of like, I just don't think how Jerry Seinfeld does, but he never like full on took him on, because he still has a fanboy thing too. Even though Mark Maron's done a lot of comedy, he's been doing stand up for 30 plus years or whatever. He's no Dave Chappelle. I mean, he doesn't have that type of notoriety, but he has his audience. Like, I like him. I'd love to go see him do stand up, and I'd rather see him than Seinfeld, but he didn't really full on go toe to toe with him. He just basically said, you know, this is not what I agree with, but he didn't full on go. And you could tell with the tone of voice and stuff. And would he say that, you know, if you asked Jerry Seinfeld, would he say he enjoyed that interview? I'm sure he'd say no, probably not. And probably would he ever do that interview again? Probably not.
So with this cancel culture and approval of comedy, how do you feel about the way we handle things? I mean, the Slaptail Squad.
Okay, here's my point to all of that. It's like Tremonti said, Jerry Seinfeld is not going to go play an all-black audience, for one thing. I mean, I don't know if that's what Tremonti's talking about. Yeah. He's also not going to go play for an LGBTQ community, most likely. He's not fucking fun. He's not going to go to a Hispanic community and play for a Hispanic community, because they're not going to get it. And the point is there is an entire genre of other comedic cultures out there that he's never going to relate to that have their own thing. There's an entire Hispanic comedic culture that I think is hilarious that most people don't know shit about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he's never going to go play with it. So the Slaptail Squad is the same thing. It doesn't matter if other people don't like us as long as they listen.
We have our own
our own audience. And if we turn, we're going to turn some people off, we're going to turn some people on, whatever. There's how many people in the fucking world?
Over 7 billion. Would you say that the Slaptail Squad is a comedy routine that's provocative and makes you think?
No. What's provocative about it? The Squad never dresses provocatively, so that's the only thing we had. That's the only thing we had going for it.
Maybe Tremonde does.
Most of the time, like right now, I have on nothing on the bottom.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Not even.
I do have one boxer briefs, but
that's something.
That's something.
That's
More your taint's not on your chair, so we're safe.
He's not doing the Sammy Dog thing where she just puts her butthole on my carpet.
Right.
No, right. No.
Okay.
Right.
I guess my what did the rest of you think about Ron's question? I answered rather right away, obviously.
I don't remember the question.
What's provocative and thought provoking or about? Is it comedic? I think so. That's how I classify us. I don't classify us as anything other than comedy.
Yeah, you can't take our advice on anything.
No.
I think it depends
on make you think.
I think it depends on what we're speaking about, because like I sometimes think back to the whole series that we did on Star Wars. And for me, like that got me to think for so many different reasons, because one, I never experienced Star Wars, but even like after experiencing it, like I started to think about like different things like religion and things like that, and if that was a part of it. So I think there may be times when we speaking on certain subjects, like it does provoke us to think differently. But I know that we don't go into it saying we're going to make people think outside of their comfort zone today.
We don't want you to change your views. You can view whatever you want and like whatever you want and appreciate our humor. Or
I would disagree with that.
Would you disagree? Would you disagree with that? Because you could just
tell me what to
you could
think.
just let her speak what she was going to say.
No, she doesn't get to speak. Yeah, no, I would disagree because you tell us what to think. Every time we have an opinion, you're like, shut the fuck up. That's wrong. This is the way it should be.
Not always.
Not always, but
you get to have your opinion every once in a while.
You get to have your opinion, and I do that for entertainment purposes. Plus, if I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
Which is pretty often.
Which is 99.9% of the time.
Yeah. This is your opinion. It's my opinion because I'm the Beaveman, the master of the universe of all great things.
My universe. I should just say I'm master of my universe. Because other than that, I probably not. No, it was just one of those things that I wanted to find and get everybody's opinion on. I just don't think that other people should dictate how your comedy is going to be. There is no grand master of comedy. And if you want to change and evolve in your own personal evolution, whether you think that it's making you a better comic or on a higher scale or you're superior to the rest of us, that's fine. You know what's still going to sell? Toilet humor is still going to fucking sell no matter how thought-provoking you think your comedy is. Just don't dictate to me what my comedy should be.
I think people should just stop dictating a lot of things.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So before this entire cancel culture popped up.
So how many times are you going to say that, by the way?
Because I'm referencing something, and every time I reference something, you don't like it.
Well, you've said it over. Here's what's interesting is you've said that term several times. So
probably at least 4, but never made a point with it.
Never made a point with it. And
every time I try to make a fucking point, you interrupt and you won't let me make my point.
And whenever you
just go, and boom, I can't make my point here. And that's all I want to do is make my point. And you're like, no. And going back to what you said, well, you have your own opinion. No, I don't. You tell me what my opinion is, and you won't let me. You are the cancel culture to me.
If I may,
So,
the
yeah,
point
you may now.
the point we're
Seinfeld.
making is that whenever you latch onto a term, you will say it so many times, whether it relates to what we're talking about or not. Here's what I'd like to do, though, is since you keep saying it over and over again, this is what I like to do when you throw a term out there. Could you please tell us what it means and what your understanding of cancel culture actually is?
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a very thought-provocative question.
A thought-provoking or thought-provocative?
Provocative, because you may not like the answer. So
remember when he said the Dunning-Kruger
Yeah,
effect
yeah.
about 80,000 times?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
the
it makes me
Dunning-Kruger
think of.
in more than one podcast, but that's fine.
Yeah.
in more than one.
Cancel
Okay,
culture.
go ahead, Ron. Cancel culture.
It's a certain group of people that don't like something, so they try to cancel it out. So it
So
never existed.
when you define something, you shouldn't use the word in the definition.
You would not be able to turn that in as an assignment and get it right on your work because they say you just
Franz,
repeated
can
the
you
same words.
Can you define bookmark? Yep, it's a mark that you put in a book.
There you go.
So I think what you're saying is if a certain demographic doesn't like what you say, they do everything within the power within their demographic to make it so that you're no longer successful.
Yeah, extremely. I would say some go to that extreme, actually.
Will we say like that's when like celebrities get like blacklisted and things like that? Or do you think that they've always done something that has warranted that?
Not warranted, but the blacklisted. Going back to the McCarthy era, when they blacklisted certain writers, actors because they thought they were communist. It's just basically evolved into something new now.
Okay, so
Right.
if you were talking about
So be
today,
it.
if we could bring it back within, I don't know, maybe say 5 years instead of 50, 60 years ago.
Okay.
So what you're saying is if you were, and this goes kind of back with us saying that if our children were going to run for public office, if it was a point in time where I said that, Ron's, you're fucking retarded, and a certain demographic heard my podcast, and then I'm going to be approached to be syndicated as a podcast, and it comes up that I said retarded, if that syndication decides to put me on, this whole demographic of people might say, you know what, we're not going to subscribe to your service. We're going to get everybody else not to subscribe to your service because you're going to have this show on your platform.
Yeah. When you're talking dollars, it means a lot. Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Million Moms and what they try to cancel on TV.
Right.
The commercial where the two women had kids, it was a cereal, right? And they were lesbians. And that Million Mom thing, try to cancel out and get the cereal banned or whatever. That's bullshit. It's so fucking bullshit. And unfortunately, when you get enough assholes behind it and steamroll it, it'll drive, let's say, the Beaveman into the ground and strip him of everything that he's worked for.
It could,
and
except for that.
It
could, except for that's the thing that people fall for. That's what they immediately fall for. I'm like, yeah, is that true, or is it, or are you looking at a very tiny piece instead of looking at the entire world?
I agree with that as well. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. What do you really know?
God.
There you go. I was wondering if I could bring that in.
No, what I'm saying,
But maybe-
what I'm saying is, okay, so I just got blacklisted by the white fur traders of America, and they don't like me anymore because of my use of the word fuck stick. It has some connotations that they're not on board with. Okay, well, apparently the Hispanic fur traders of America really like me. So fuck you, white fur traders of America.
But also by doing that, didn't they just boost your publicity by making a big deal out of that? So who gives a shit if they don't like you? But now 4 other groups like you even more because you stood up for your belief in the fuck stick.
I believe my point is that if you're an entertainer, you're going to find your niche as an entertainer. That's
Mhm.
that's the only point I had.
Yeah.
That was the only,
Yeah.
literally the only point I had.
And within that niche is your audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And you might pick up some along the way, and you might drop some along the way. It is what it is.
And I feel
It
like some
is.
people even listen to you because they don't like you, which cool.
Well, that's
Those
Howard
are people
Stern.
that we want too. Yeah.
Well, that used to be
He-
Howard Stern, but I've always liked Howard Stern. I never listened to
I've always liked him too.
I never listened to Howard Stern because I didn't like him. You know, but there are
He
people
says
that,
some
you know,
crazy weird shit sometimes, but that makes you more intrigued, I think.
So let me ask you this then. If we don't push those boundaries of free speech and comedy, are we going to regress back into this submissive comedy where we think everything's kind of black and white?
well, that goes. See, that's kind of part of where I disagree with Mark Maron, because he's, you know, saying that, you know, this evolution or whatever, and he was basically saying that there's too many comedians out there also bitching that their cancel culture is taking over and everybody's being censored. They can't say this, they can't say that, they can't say this. And I just once again have to say that, well, I don't think that that's anything that you have to worry about, because we're on these giant platforms now that we can say whatever we want. You just have to be able to, and I agree with what Mark Maron said about this, is he said, you can say what you want. That's your choice. Just remember that you're the one responsible for what you say. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. You know, if 10 years from now, if I'm still doing this podcast or doing a different podcast or whatever, or if there's some sort of notoriety and they look back 10 years ago and they say, Beaveman, on this one episode, you insisted on saying fuck stick 15 times. Do you still stand by your use of the word fuck stick? Yeah, I do. What difference does it make? That was for entertainment 15 years ago. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, and you might not use it anymore just because that word's not relevant anymore. You have a new one that you use more.
Exactly.
However, beyond the comedic episode of the use of the word, would you stand by it for free speech?
The right to say fuck stick?
Yeah.
Sure,
Well, of
why
course.
not?
Why not?
Because in a lot of the comedians who are getting hammered kind of double back on what they say, and they're like, okay, I'm no longer going to use that word or that area of comedy anymore.
That's fine. That's part of their own evolution if they want to do that. I'm just saying that obviously I can't look in the future and say, oh yeah, I'm going to still keep saying the fuck stick. What difference does it make? I can't look in the future. I'm just saying right now that if you're really worried about being censored, then censor yourself. But we're not being censored. We can say whatever we want to say. It's up to you to decide what your audience is. And if you want to keep that audience, you still do have to communicate with the audience to find out what it is they want. That's the important thing. You do have to evolve in a way as an entertainer. And thankfully, we're not bound by those. We're not bound by that because we're just doing a podcast.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I know that we picked up a couple of new listeners. I was approached by a fan, and
Is he 6?
no.
Children aren't supposed to listen to this podcast, Ron.
No, they're not. However, they loved what they heard from the Beaveman, the Swan Tremonde, and I'm like, wow. I was kind of like gushing. I'm like, oh wow, tell me what you liked about it.
Do you want to take a picture with me? Do you want my
Can I
autograph?
give you my
I'm
autograph?
just a normal person here and there, right?
Like, can I get a selfie?
However, get my good side, only my good side.
Which side
is that?
Exactly. So it was just, it's kind of an accolade to, hey.
Was this
I listened
after
to
you
you.
said, hey, have you listened to my podcast
Yeah,
yet?
I gotta stop doing that.
I've given you my business card like 17 times. And they're like, yeah, listen to it just to shut you up. Was that how that conversation started?
No, not at all.
It's amazing.
So if I
go ahead, Tremonde.
If I can rewind a little bit, going back to we were talking about like the president or our previous president being the butt of many jokes. There was a part of me at a point in time when I was just like, this sucks having a president and he is being laughed at by so many people around the world, not even just our country. It was like, this is sad.
It makes us look like a joke as a country.
Yes. Yep. And then I also like to watch, is it Jordan, is it Kleeper? Kleper. Well, he goes to these Trump rallies and he interviews.
Yeah.
You know, and so then you have this woman saying like him, the president saying grabbing some woman by the pussy is just locker room talk. And then he says, "Well, do your son say that?" No, my son would never say that. Is it okay for your husband to say that? No, my husband would say that. Would your priest say that? No, but your president says that. Well, it was just, it's okay. And I'm like, that's where it's like what?
No. Yeah. No. We are made fun of worldwide because of who are the fuck ups that we had. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at least if you look back at the presidents that we had before that they made fun of, it was never malicious making fun of because of the stupid shit they did. It might have just been like their mannerisms or the funny things that they said.
Or Biden falling asleep at a...
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, George W. Bush. I mean, some of the best comedy was about, George W. Bush because of the way he talked, his accent and everything and the silly things he said and having words wrong. I mean, that's funny.
Was it Bush who threw up in the Japanese prime minister or area, threw up in his lap or something?
I don't
remember that.
No, we don't. No, I do not
Gerald
remember
Ford
that.
was known for his falling down. Jimmy Carter was known for his Georgia accent.
You don't have to.
He likes to rattle off lists. Ron likes to do lists. It's word association.
It's hard for him to focus. It's
what they do in the dementia unit to keep him like this. Pants go with the shirt, Ron's.
I can't help it that I know just a little bit more sometimes than you guys.
It's not even about that. It's you can't stay focused on the subject. You just start going. No, dude,
you were talking about the presidents and their mannerisms and how they were funny.
It's part of his mini mental exam.
No,
remember these 4 words, Ron.
No, you see, what we did was we took an example that related directly to our topic. What you did was you took an example related to the example, and you just kept going. That's what you keep doing. So now if I said something about Pumas and how my love for Pumas directly influences my comedy, and this is why, you would talk about Adidas, and then you'd say something about Nike, Converse, K-Swiss. You just keep going on.
I thought you were talking about the cat.
So you just keep talking about something that...
Whatever. So, whatever. I was on... Okay. You know what? I agree with you. So shut up and move on.
You have all pink Pumas?
I
want to see them.
Whoa. I've already agreed. We're moving on. Let's move on. Right.
My question is this. My question is this before we wrap it up. Rons, why do you keep promoting the podcast to people you know or that you come in contact with? Do you actually
do you want the comedian answer or do you want the serious answer?
Well,
you decide.
Well, for one,
no, you decide.
I will decide.
You decide right now.
I want the comedian answer because I want to see if it's funny. You already know your real answer.
Can I speak?
All right.
I want to speak
yes,
first.
You can speak.
It's your
podcast.
Go ahead. You can try to speak.
I don't consider him a comedian, so I guess whatever answer he gives is just an answer.
Harsh.
Very, very harsh. Very harsh.
Go ahead, go ahead. What's your answer?
It's because I like the sound of my own voice.
That was the most not funny comedic answer. So was that your serious answer?
Your opinion. I just need the...
You do. You want my approval. Secretly, deep down, you do.
I do, really? Okay.
Yeah. So now your real answer?
Is because I seriously love doing the podcast and I want other people to see the wit that the Beaveman, Tremonde, you, and I bring to it. I think it's a fantastic thing that we get to do every week. I really do. I'm very proud of it. Even though the Beaveman, you listen to the Beaveman come at me in public, as he said before, he's not like that with me, right? Now, he can be a bit sarcastic, like when I'm practicing, he'll shout out, "Rods, bye!"
That's not sarcasm.
Right, and that goes back to a little bit further with the joke, but we'll let that go.
Please do.
But he's a very humble person in public, right?
I guess
and the same way with this one.
I guess my question is this. Despite me asking you several times, stop promoting your podcast to people that you know, why is it that you keep doing it? Swan, do you do that? Do you do that?
Defiance.
Swan,
he does it out of
Swan. Out of the people that you come across contact with often, do you ask them to listen to our podcast?
No.
Tremande?
I think I've shared it with maybe 2 people, but
no. Tremande?
No.
Rons. Why are you?
Yes.
Why are you?
Rons, yes.
Yeah. Why are you intent on some sort of local notoriety of your podcast?
Because that's how your fan base starts.
No, I've explained this to you before. That's not how your fan base starts.
I think you're wrong, but okay.
Well, then you could just branch on your own. Branch on your own and see how you do with your local.
We can pull up the list of listeners, and how many of them percentage-wise do you think are your local people versus how many?
Oh, 0.1, if that.
No, you're going to get 1 or 2 because you just said you shared it and people listened to it and said they like it. So there clearly has to be 1 or 2. And then if you're listening to it yourself, that's another 1 or 2.
Well, I mean, just
on average,
just in my opinion, there's issues with having the people that you know, that you come in frequent contact with, being your fan base. Is there any worst case scenario? What do you think that would be?
Everybody thinks that we belittle and beat up Rons all the time.
That I don't find I don't have a problem with that. That I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with that. No.
You can't talk about your people in your local circle because they're going to know that you're talking about them. I mean, that's a huge problem. How are we supposed to make fun of people when you're like, yeah, that tall person from the dojo, and they're like, fuck, that's probably me. Like, he's calling me a fucking retard.
Exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, see, Rons, do you see a problem with it now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's his prerogative. That's his prerogative. I am not going to change. I'm not going to change the Rons. I mean, I said this to Tremande anyway. I said if we were ever really big, and I'm paraphrasing, if we actually did have major notoriety, someone would approach Rons and take him away from us anyway.
Yes, they would. For their own comedic.
Yeah, because the Rons is the Rons. There is no show without the Rons.
But I don't think that he would make it. No disrespect to the Rons. I don't know if he would make it anywhere else.
Aww.
Ow.
No, and I think that's a good thing because I think kind of just going back to what we were just talking about is that I be like as you start to become more famous and you get more notary and all these other things, like you begin to be placed in this box, and then everything is going to be scripted for you. And it's not going to be.
And God forbid he can't read. So
wow.
Read it verbatim, Rons. I am reading it verbatim.
Yeah.
Really? Because there's you've added words and there's words missing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna. I'll be with you, Rons. I can't act and memorize a script either. So.
I really do like the podcast. I mean, I have a chance to send it international, and I was a bit hesitant about that.
Okay, hold on. But Rons, we're already heard internationally. The platform that you're on, we're on multiple platforms, so people can hear us all over the world. You don't have to send it anywhere. It's on this thing called the internet.
Yeah, but what he's saying is he's sharing it with his friends, his international friends.
He doesn't even have to worry about that. You can any country. I mean, we get stats of people in other countries listening to us. You don't have to send it anywhere. It's already out there.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. I will let it go.
I would like to say, though, that I think it's almost, it was kind of insulting, though, that Tremande said that the Rons wouldn't survive outside of this podcast. That's kind of sad, Tremande. Jeez.
No,
No, it was a good thing. I
it's a
think.
good
How's that a
thing.
good
Well,
thing? Why is that a good
We
thing?
want to keep
Wait a minute.
it for
No,
ourselves.
So wait a minute. So what you're saying though is that if another show approached the Rons and said, "Hey, we've heard your stuff. We want you on our show. You're that guy." You don't think that he could do it? I feel like he could.
I don't think he would do it because he's loyal
No,
and humble.
I didn't say that he wouldn't
I
do
know.
it.
I'm just saying.
I'm saying you're saying that he doesn't have the ability to do it. The Rons is the show.
I
You
think
take
he
away
has
the
the-
Rons.
But if you take away his environment, he might not be the show anymore.
Shut the fuck up, Rons. It's not,
Yes, sir.
I'm not
But
I'm not saying this so that you can have your humble, bashful, freaking dopey moment. I'm making a
So
point.
if you took away, so you would have to have the exact same environment. Someone to be the Beaveman to banter and belittle with him, or it would not work at all.
Yep.
Okay,
I agree.
My point is this: there are plenty of personalities like the Beaveman. There are very few of them that can do the Ron's part of it.
But the chemistry won't work, even if you took. It's the environment. It's your environment and your relationship with the Rons that makes it work.
Yep. He shows up the way that he shows up because of you,
Yeah.
and then us.
I see.
So yeah, he can go out there and make some other people laugh, but I would bet my bottom dollar that he wouldn't stay there very long.
It's sort of like Martin and Lewis.
Look, nobody asked you, Rons. Okay.
So can you give a few more examples, Rons?
Yeah.
Can you rattle off the list?
Keep listening, people.
You know what?
Yeah, can you?
Lois and Clark.
Pinky and the Brain.
Tom
Pinky
and
the
Jerry.
Brain's a good one.
Nobody recent.
Jeff
Nobody
Daniels
from
and
the last century. Can you
Jim
make sure that
Carrey.
none of them are from the last century or within the past 5 years?
Okay, I would say Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. Because on
No.
Dumb and Dumber, on Dumb and Dumber.
So which one are you?
Yeah, well, that's up for you to say.
Dumbest.
But
Dumber and Dumberer.
Dumbest. Most
Jim Carrey specifically said he wanted
most
an actor
dumb.
versus a comedian because comedians tend to outshine each other.
Now, did you get this
And
from
he-
behind the scenes? Is that how you know this? Was there behind the
I
scenes
saw
interviews?
this with an interview with
Behind the
Jeff
scenes.
Daniels.
He
and
went
Jim
behind
Carrey.
the scenes like he likes to do.
Yeah.
But it's like when me and Beaveman Tremonti, we don't try to outshine each other per se, right? I'll try to outdo him in verbal combat, but let's face it, he's a master at it, and I'm still the Padawan. And there's some things that I can't relate to what Tremonti does, but it
What
works
kind
out
of things
well.
are those?
Yeah. Well,
I don't say, what do I do that you can't relate to?
Camp counselor,
being black.
But
Being
gay.
handsome. He brought it in. Being gay. So, but I. He said it.
What's so different about being that?
Is that-
when the Beaveman says being black?
Is that because
Jesus.
that's your identity? That's Tremonti's identity to you is that he's gay
And black.
and black.
No, Tremonti is Tremonti. I see him as a human being.
thank you.
See how that shut down real quick?
Yeah. Hey,
Because I knew where this was going to go.
Before we get off here, I just wanted to say that this is the assignment, though, Rons. Tremonti wants us to watch this show on Netflix called Pose. And I've watched a couple episodes, and I just want to say a couple things about it. One, the main antagonist so far in the first couple episodes we've watched, you know who we're talking about, Tremonti? She is a
Her name isn't her name Electra?
Sure, whatever.
Electra. Yeah, I think so.
Horrible actress. Horrible.
Yeah.
Whenever she speaks, it's literally like she's reading it off of a cue card. She has no true acting ability. Anyway,
It's overacted. It's
not overacted. It is literally read from a card. Yes, you think that you are better than me? Let me tell you something, girlfriend. I am better than you are. Anyway, the show itself is really good, though. I want Rons to watch this show, though. Rons, watch the show and let me know if you think that these ladies are attractive.
Oh, yeah. You mean the drag queens?
They're not drag
They're not
queens.
Drag queens.
They're transgender.
Drag queen is different. And drag queen is a different thing.
But I think the one is really pretty. Like the one that's the stripper or whatever she is, the prostitute one. Like she looks totally feminine.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said I want to know if how Ron's felt about it, but that's fine.
All right.
So
At
watch
my
it, Ron.
earliest convenience, I will try and watch it.
I mean, do it when you're supposed to be napping.
Watch it with Lil Powder Donut.
Yeah, Lil Powder Donut.
Lil
She'll
Powder.
like
She'll
it.
like it. Yeah.
I hope so.
Who's Little Butter Donut?
Other than that, the show is really pretty good. I'm liking it.
Yeah,
so far.
I like it. I'm sucked in.
Yeah,
Nice.
if less of that lady, other than that.
She's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm
Well,
gonna watch the first episodes to see how was her acting in it.
It's not good. It's not good. Maybe she gets better, but she can tell it's not great. And I don't know if that's how her character is supposed to be. That's a possibility.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch it too.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just they don't have the dynamics of being together yet on the show. Like the cast.
Everybody else is doing
its own.
Everybody else is doing a good job of sounding natural and conversational. She does not. And I don't know. Maybe that's how her character is designed. I don't know. But to me, it sounds like she's just reading from a script. All right. Well, that's it for me then. It's been a very fun conversation. I guess I'll take it back. I guess that it would be fun if Jerry Seinfeld was on our show because it would make Tremonda happy and just to see me getting pissed off.
I want to see it just to get you to piss Jerry Seinfeld off.
I think that it would be very hard for me not to get pissed because one, I don't stop swearing in the first place. Swan doesn't either. So,
Wow. When during a podcast aren't you pissed off at some point?
Right now.
Oh, okay.
And I would almost expect you to go into that podcast with him not planning to be nice.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be.
And I would say not to be mean, but I can see that you going into that podcast and you not filtering yourself.
Yeah,
because of people sitting across the table.
Well, because I don't in my actual life, in my real life, in my professional life, I don't filter myself. So I'm not gonna do it in something that's totally for entertainment either. I'm like,
you're not gonna be if you don't like me, I'm gonna kiss your ass till you like me.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Like, if you don't like me, then whatever. I don't need to talk to you ever again. It's cool that you're on my podcast, but go fuck yourself.
So
if
you're not afraid of the cancel culture.
No.
Well, that's great. That's
great. Because we always have our
Ron,
own
are you
little
back on
niche.
cancel culture?
What's that?
You're back on cancel culture?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it one more time. That's it.
Mission accomplished. Right? All right. Well, that's it for me. I would highly recommend that people go out there and watch Pablo Francisco's comedy on YouTube. He's fucking hilarious. Watch him do Little Tortilla Boy. Felipe Esparza, he's also really funny. Yeah, you can listen to some podcasts. I would recommend people go ahead and find some podcasts or some interviews with Jerry Seinfeld where he's in conflict with somebody and see how he just completely changes. I've always found him actually to be arrogant. I've always found him to be like he's got this major chip on his shoulder, but maybe that's just me. Maybe
that's just because he grew up a little rich kid. Like a lot of them are entitled.
I don't think that Jerry Seinfeld was a rich kid.
No,
I don't think so.
That's what he gives to me.
If I can throw somebody out there, I would say go watch Gary Owen doing What I Do.
That's all right, Gary Owen.
Yeah, he's good.
I
doing
will
what
do
I
it. All right. Well, that's it for me, the Beaveman.
You've already said that.
Saying adios.
It's his podcast.
Okay.
Bye from the Swan.
Deuces.
And from the Rons. Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, and smooch fuckos because I didn't get to say it all the way out because Ron's interrupted me.
Yeah.